Hi guys, you are watching Biology with Tisha, and in today's video we're going to be discussing about the topic nutrition. So before we understand or move further into this topic, let us first understand what are the things to be studied in this chapter. So before we start, let me just give a pointer and we will start with the topic. Okay. Right, so we're studying nutrition, and there's several things that you need to understand, that you need to study in this chapter. So the first thing that we're going to understand is what is nutrition, and then we're going to understand what is a balanced diet and what is a diet, and then we're going to understand the 7 different types of nutrients and why are they needed in our body, and what is their function, what is their role, and what happens if you don't get enough of those nutrients. And then some tests that you need to perform in a lab for those nutrients, and then we're going to study about starvation and obesity, which is mainly because of the uneven distribution of food. And then at the last part, we're going to be studying about the human teeth. Okay, now I won't be covering all of that in one single video, as it is not possible. This is a very big chapter, and I will be making separate videos, and I will be focusing on one nutrient in one video. So we're going to be discussing fats in this video, as it is not possible to discuss everything in one go. But let's take this step by step so that it is easy for both you and I. Okay, nutrition. So what is nutrition? Nutrition is basically the process by which we living organisms eat food and get nutrients from the food that we eat, and those nutrients help in making protoplasm, in giving us the energy that we need, or to make the raw materials that are needed for some basic systems in our bodies, right, for cell division and etc. Okay, so that is what nutrition is. As you can tell from the word nutrition, the word nutrients should come to your mind. But first, let's understand what is a balanced diet. But before that, let's understand what is a diet. So basically, a diet means what you eat and drink. We all have different diets. Like, for example, you may have more meat in your diet, and I may have less meat in my diet. The diet depends on your health. Like, a person with diabetes avoids having more sugar in their diet, as sugar is bad for them due to the already high levels of glucose in their blood. Or maybe someone with a very high cholesterol avoid eating fatty meat, because they know that if they put too much fatty meat in their diet, they're going to get higher levels of this fatty substance in their blood, which can lead to heart diseases or coronary heart diseases. Okay, so what is a balanced diet? So when we know what is a diet, but what is a balanced diet? A balanced diet means to get the needed nutrients or constituents in the correct composition or amount. This is a very simple definition. It means to get the different types of nutrients or food in the correct amount. Like if you're eating too much fat, that's bad for you. That's not a balanced diet. You need to eat your fats. I'm not saying to completely cut down on fats, because that is also wrong. You need to get your fats in the correct amount, and you also need to get your carbohydrates, your fruits and vegetables, your proteins, and your vitamins and minerals and water, but in the correct amount, and they all are important for the human body. If any one of them is missing, or if any one of them is a bit too much or too little, that can be bad for the human body. Okay, so there are 7 nutrients or chemicals that our body needs for survival, and I have listed them down here from 1 to 7, being fats, carbohydrates, proteins, minerals, vitamins, water, and fiber, and roughage. Okay, but now let's have a look at this circle here, sort of like a pie chart of our diet. Now this is what you should be eating. This is a small representation, a rough representation of what you should be eating. This is the portion of carbohydrates, and a large portion of fruits and vegetables, some dairy, some meat, and some sugar. Notice how small your fats should be in your diet, because they're not unhealthy. Nonetheless, they are needed in your diet. Now, there's some factors that determine your diet, and those main factors are your gender, your weight, your height, your climate, your physical activity. When I say gender, if you're a male, then you require a bigger diet than a female due to the bigger muscle mass and body weight. Okay, and if you are tall, if you're fat, well, that's bad for you, and people who are obese may require a little bit more diet to fulfill their appetite, though it is wrong if they're eating a bit too much. And when I say physical activity, if a person is a construction worker, then that person needs to eat more. But there's a woman maybe who's working in an office who just sits all day doing nothing but just dealing with papers and computers. She doesn't need to eat much because she doesn't have much going on in her body. She doesn't need much nutrients to keep up for the strenuous amount of work. But on the other hand, someone working as a construction worker may require a lot of protein to make up for the loss of those cells due to the damage done, and also to provide the energy that the person needs. And as for the climate, if you're living in a very hot climate, you need to eat food that is more rich in vitamins, minerals, and water, or you need to drink some more water. Why? Because you're losing more water through sweat, and you need water in your body, and we will discuss why. Okay, so let's get to the chase. Fats. Well, what are fats? Let's first get the basic idea. They are inorganic elements. Let me just grab my highlighter here first, and then we'll move on. Okay, so fats are inorganic elements. This basically means that they don't directly provide you with energy. Okay, they need to be broken down, and then they are useful for you. Now, fats are composed of three main elements: hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Now, these are the three main elements that make up fats, but please understand that this is very, very important for your understanding, that in fact the number or the composition of oxygen is always less. So remember this in blue, that oxygen is always less in fats. Okay, right, moving on. Fats are made up of a glycerol molecule and some fatty acid chains. When I say glycerol molecule and fatty acid chains, what I mean is that, just have a look at this diagram here. Okay, I'm just gonna draw a couple of stuff here to show you which diagram I'm actually talking about using a green pen. Okay, so I'm talking about this diagram here. This diagram that you can see, this here is a representation of a fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, this here, ladies and gentlemen, is our fatty acid and glycerol. This is basically the simplest version of our fat. Now, when you eat sugar, or if you're eating, not sugar, if you're eating cake or chocolates, they contain fats. They need to be broken down and absorbed by our bodies, and then they can be used, right? And the simplest form of fat is fatty acids and glycerol that are, in the form that they are absorbed by our bodies, and then they are utilized or used for different processes. Okay, so this over here that you can see here is your glycerol molecule, right? This is your glycerol molecule, and these are your fatty acid chains. Fatty acid chains are basically long chains attached to your glycerol molecule, and this is the simplest version of your fat, and this is what fats are made up of. Okay, moving on. So they contain more energy. Okay, so they contain more energy than carbohydrates. Why? Because since they have more energy, they're used for many more processes in our bodies, which we will discuss for how many processes and why they're needed down below. So they contain about 39 kilojoules of energy. 1 grams of fat gives you 39 kilojoules of energy, and I'm guessing carbohydrate should give you around, a gram of carbohydrate should give you around 16 or 17 kilojoules of energy, which is less. But fats take a longer time to be broken down than carbohydrates. So if you're a runner and you want energy quickly, so don't look at the amount, look at the time. You should go for carbohydrates as they are broken down faster, and fats take a bit more time to be broken down as there's a lot more involved in their digestion, which we will be studying in the digestion chapter. So they're a good form of stored energy in our bodies. So notice whenever people who eat a lot of fat, what happens to the excess fat? The extra fat gets stored in their bodies under their skin, and when it gets stored under their skin, they basically become fat, and when that fat is required, it's broken down and then used for energy. So what this does is that the fat under your skin basically acts as an insulator against heat, which means it keeps your body warm. By keeping warm, it prevents any excessive heat loss. That is an advantage and the use of a fat. Okay, a layer of fat is always found in a type of tissue called an adipose tissue. So this adipose tissue can be found in our organs like the heart and the liver. And this is where in the adipose tissue your fat is deposited, and this particular fat here prevents any sort of mechanical damage. For example, that layer of fat ensures that your organs are not damaged and basically acts as a shock absorber. Okay, acting as a shock absorber, it prevents damage to those critically vital organs and gives it the support needed. Similarly, people who are obese or have a lot of fat under their skin, you punch them or do something physically like attack them and stuff, their fat acts as a shock absorber. Okay, this is very, very important. I'm just gonna underline this with this blue thing here. This is the last point here, is very, very important. So it's needed, fats are needed for, so fats are needed for transport of fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D. Now transport happens in our bodies, and there are vitamins like vitamin D that need to be transported in our bodies to ensure strong and healthy bones and teeth, which we will be covering this under the topic vitamins. So fats are needed to transport these fat soluble vitamins. These vitamins, what happens is that, just think of it as like this. This is your fat in its liquid form, and then we have your vitamin D. So this vitamin D here gets dissolved in your fat, and when it's dissolved in your fat, it gets transported around your body. Okay, simple enough, nothing rocket science to that. Let's move on. Okay, so now this is what a fatty acid and glycerol looks like, and now the last section of this is test for fats. Okay, so there's a test that happens in a lab to check for fats, to check whether this particular food contains fat or not. Okay, so here's what happens. Let's just grab a different colored pen. Okay, so this is very important. You need to keep this in mind. This comes in your MCQs. Okay, everyone. So the main test for fats is your ethanol, also known as alcohol, and water. So ethanol and water is required. So what happens is that you take your test tube, which is what this person is holding, okay, and you put something containing fat in your test tube. It can be, if it's a solid, you need to crush it. Crush your peanuts and then put it in. If it's a liquid, like coconut oil, you just pour it in, just a little bit of it. And after that, you can just pour in your ethanol and water, and you have to pour them step by step. Don't pour the two things together. So you just give your test tube a bit of a shake, right? A bit of a shake. Place your thumb on top and give it a nice shake. Make sure your safety goggles and your white lab coat are all there. Is very important, right? So after having done that, you'll notice that the two liquids are immiscible. They don't mix with one another. They react with fats, and that a cloudy or a white appearance will soon be noticed. So after having poured ethanol and water onto your fats in the test tube, which is right here, the section that I'm coloring with yellow, a cloudy, which I'm underlining right now, or white appearance can be noticed. Now if you want to know where that white appearance is, here it is. This white cloudy appearance can be seen here, the one that I am drawing on right now with my pen, right? This here indicates that there is fat present in this particular food. You may have to provide it with some heat to speed up the reaction. Nonetheless, the reaction shows that there is fat present in your food that you are testing for. Okay guys, that's it for now. That's pretty much it to fats. There's nothing more to it. Just have a look at the video and you will understand your concepts. It should be nice and clear. Thanks for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment. If you're watching this on Facebook, follow, like, share, and do share this with your family and friends, because I really hope these videos are helping many students out there. If there's any request, any sort of help, anything, I'm always there. You can always ask me or have any request written down in the comment section below. As always, keep learning. See you in the next video.